You've heard of crazy Formula One stories, from drivers getting arrested to drivers bankrupting a team. However, there's a legend of Formula One who isn't really talked about enough. Hello and welcome to Fervent Motorsports. Today we're going to tell you a story about the king of Formula One who was even kidnapped before a race. Juan Manuel Fangio is widely considered to be one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time. He won the Formula One World Championship 5 times in the span of just 7 years. During his career, Fangio competed in just 51 Formula One races. For comparison, George Russell of Mercedes has competed in about 84 Grand Prix. Now, Fangio won 24 out of his 51 races, and this puts his win rate at about 47%. Lewis Hamilton's win rate is about 37%. Now, you're probably wondering how he won 5 championships in just 50 races. Let me explain. Fangio was a part of the early Formula One days, the 1950s. During those seasons, there were only about 7 to 10 races per season. In comparison, this year we will have 24 races in a season. Now, because this was the initial days of Formula One, safety was also a major concern. The cars were not as safe as today's cars. They had no safety features such as seatbelts, roll cages, or fire extinguishers. Additionally, the tracks were not as safe as today's tracks. They had few barriers or even no barriers, and there were no safety features in place to protect drivers or even spectators. Now remember this fact because it will come in handy later in the video. On the 23rd of February 1958, the Formula One world gathered in Cuba because there was a race along the streets of Havanna. Now keep in mind that this race wasn't counted towards the official championship, but it was more an exhibition race that the Cuban government had organized. They paid the drivers good money to race there for tourism purposes. Now, at the hotel lobby, a few days before the race, the 5-time world champion and the greatest Formula One driver at that time, Fangio, was kidnapped at gunpoint. Now, this is obviously political because only politicians would think that this is a good idea. Basically, Cuba was under the rule of President Batista. Under his rule, Cuba was plagued by high unemployment and limited water infrastructure. Now, there were many rebels fighting against him, and this included Fidel Castro. There were clashes between Batista and Castro's men, and Batista had even captured some of Castro's men. And this is exactly why they kidnapped Formula One driver Fangio. They wanted to use Fangio as a bargaining chip in exchange for the prisoners. But President Batista had ego issues. He wanted to continue the race while Fangio was still kidnapped because he did not want to seem weak to the world. The race, however, was a disaster. Just 6 laps in, there was a red flag when a Ferrari going at over 180 km per hour crashed into a crowd. Now, because of the lack of safety equipment, 7 people died and 30 were injured. After the race, the kidnappers released Fangio. During his captivity, he was actually treated pretty well. He was given a steak and he was not even blindfolded, and the rebels even allowed him to watch the race. But he was deeply shaken by this incident. The 1958 season proved to be too much, and after that he never raced in Formula One again. Juan Manuel Fangio's career statistics are impressive and his records are still standing today. He is considered one of the greatest drivers of all time, and his legacy continues to inspire many drivers in the sport today. So thank you for watching this video by us here at Fervent Motorsports. In case you like it, remember to subscribe, and as always, stay tuned as we get you the best of motorsport news.